Good morning, Jamie. How are you doing?
Good, man. That intro is incredible, man. Like that's fantastic.
I made
It's
it in
good to be with you.
Canva. I made it in Canva. Canva's
That's
pretty
awesome.
good these days. Like, I
That
don't
was
know.
awesome, man.
I love
That
the
was incredible.
jingle. I spent far
Yeah,
too much time putting that thing. It's actually not too bad though to put together.
yeah. No,
I'll
that
say.
was awesome, man. Good to be with you, man. I appreciate you having me on.
It's wonderful to be with you as well. I'm super excited for today's show. We have Jamie Cain with Help Ghost, and Jamie and I are going to dig into a topic that I think is super interesting for every managed service provider to listen to. The fact that the people with the most knowledge are often the biggest risk is almost kind of a contradiction. But it's super true. I remember my MSP days. I remember my tech days. I remember having that sage guru. And if Scott, that was his name, had left the organization, I don't know what we'd have done. So this is going to be a wonderful topic. Good morning, Brett. As always, good to see you. I'm excited because I've known Jamie for a while. For those who don't have the pleasure of knowing Jamie, I want to give Jamie an opportunity before we jump right in today to give us the story. I don't want the 30-second, I'm Jamie at Help Ghost. I want to know who Jamie is. I want to know a little bit about why you're doing what you're doing. And then we'll give you an opportunity to also share a little bit about what you're doing at Help Ghost. So take us away, Jamie.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it's good to be with you. I don't know how much of the story you want to hear. I know you said
I want to
a
hear the
little bit of
story. We
it.
got a few minutes, Jamie. Give us the story. Give us the
Yeah,
story.
so like Jamie Cain out of Boise, Idaho. Love Boise. It's a good spot. The air quality is horrible right now because everything's on fire around us. But outside of that, we're good. Massive Colts fan. Somehow also like John. I don't know how it happened because I'm not from Indiana, but I love the Colts. So there's that. Spent 6 years in the U.S. Army as well. And my best accomplishment is my family, my beautiful wife, and our three kids. And then building Help Ghost alongside of that has been, quite the journey. We've, officially been in the MSP vertical market space, whatever channel, whatever you want to call it, now for about 13 months. Previous to that, we were serving a different ICP and kind of organically got pulled into the MSP channel because MSPs and MSP vendors were finding us. And it came at a really appropriate time because I knew that we needed to serve a very specific problem for a very specific niche. I just wasn't sure what that was yet. And then, like I said, this organic door opened up for MSPs, and I dove with 2 feet in and learned as much as I could about the problems and how the organizations work. I spoke with a ton of MSPs, and I realized I knew a ton of them in my network, which really surprised me. And then we decided to make the pivot and have not regretted at all. Our growth since that pivot has been exponential. Like compared to what we were doing to what we're doing now has been awesome, man. And just building networks with guys like you and others that I've met in the space, the channel has been awesome. Like one of the things I love about the MSP vertical. So I come from the SaaS world, right? So I say vertical space channel, whatever you want to call it, but I was not expecting just how helpful everybody was or was
Yeah.
going to be, and like how communal and relational, and like anti-transactional, which can be a challenge from like the sales perspective, but just from the human element, the human perspective, man, I've loved it, dude. Like it has been refreshing to walk into a vertical and it be so just helpful, man. I don't know how else to say it. So yeah.
Yeah. After a decade and a half of being here, I don't see myself leaving anytime. It is a unique thing. I've asked so many people over all of my years in the industry, have you ever met anything similar to it? And nobody ever has.
Yeah.
Being a SaaS guy as well, of course, it's much more transactional, much more cutthroat, a lot more competitive, and a lot less collaborative out there. So that's why I
Yeah.
love this industry, and that's why I have this show, because we're here to just share, and we're just here to educate and enable. And I'm excited for today's topic because it's one that's near and dear, probably to you and me, probably 90% of people listening. Everybody's got that guy or gal. And so the person
Yeah.
that knows everything is your biggest risk. So for people in the audience, just a quick question. Who here has that guy or gal on their team? And what are you doing right now to make sure that that guy or gal is scalable, replaceable, and someone that you can find yourself working alongside outside of this? Sorry, I got thrown off because it said the stream dropped, but I think we're still good. All right. So Jamie, that's what happens when you produce, run, edit, and do everything yourself. You just
Hey man,
get
hey, you're
distracted,
crushing
man.
it. You're crushing it, man.
We got it rolling. Just another cup of coffee, and we'll get right back onto the show notes here.
I know. I don't have my espresso, man. I'm usually an espresso guy in the morning, man. I should have brought one. Yeah.
Little technical difficulties over here, but we're good. We're good. LinkedIn's just screwing with me. I always like to watch the show on the top screen. All right, we're back. We're in. Let's talk about that. Thanks for letting me break the fourth wall. I'm just falling apart today. All right, so
you're my Deadpool, man.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just here for the coffee, man. I don't even know what's going on anymore. Awesome. All right, so let's dig into it for real. Let's talk about why the hero tech is the liability. So what I want to dig into with you over there at Help Ghost, obviously, let's not talk about the vendor side, but like what you're seeing at it.
Yes.
You're helping people automate, but like, let's talk about what you're seeing in the trenches around why that hero tech is a liability, and what are some of the pains that are emerging out of it, and what are some of the ways you're seeing businesses try to help solve around it?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, first things first, I always quote this study, and I can't remember who did it, but it was outside the MSP space, and it said that 85% of knowledge workers, or 85% of what knowledge work dependent organizations know is not documented, right? And when I give that stat, when I'm meeting with MSPs, when I give that stat to them, usually I get like laughs or nods, and then it followed up by, oh, it's more than that. Right. I mean, almost every single time it's like, oh, it's more than 85%. Right. Yeah. And I asked, well, what number do you think it is? Oh, 95%. Right. I mean, consistently, it surprised me how like consistent that answer was across organizations, no matter who I was talking to. All of them were like, God, it's got to be higher than that. Right. And so as far as like why that's the biggest liability, I was talking to a senior tech at an MSP in Australia, one of the Australian MSPs that we service. And he was one of their most senior techs, and in 6 or 7 years have been at 4 different MSPs. And I asked him, well, I said, how much of what you know do you think was ever documented? He said probably about 10%. And you think about like this guy in the moment is an incredible business asset because of what he knows, because of everything that he's accomplished in his career. And then the moment he leaves, that asset becomes a huge business liability because everything walks out the door, or everything he knows, walks out the door with him. And then you enter this really, you talk about the pain. What we discover is that there's this really, really visceral pain of rediscovery. Like, how long does it actually take you to rediscover everything that, for instance, that guy Scott that you knew at your MSP? If he walked out the door, how long is that rediscovery period, right? And then there's going to be those elements in the things that I think are really, really important that aren't talked about enough, or there's like these quirks and nuances in each client environment with each client. Each client has certain things that no other client has, or that one tech knows. That stuff is incredibly hard to rediscover and hard to remember, hard to find if it's not documented somewhere, right? And so you have all these like intricacies that I think matter outside of just the big things that walk out the door with that technician. As far as what MSPs are doing to solve it, I'm trying to remember the questions that you asked me.
No, you're good.
As far as what, sorry, go ahead. Was that the final?
You're good. No, you're good, question? Man. Like, yeah. I threw you like 6 questions. I'd like to throw a handful of smattering of questions and just let you kind of answer.
Yeah, but I think I remembered all of them, but yeah.
You did. Ahead. Yeah. And you were about to answer the next one, but I wanted to pause there because you gave us first, Brett. Brett, I love it. I love to hear that you don't have that guy or gal where you're at now. I remember it back in my MSP days, but it is, it's a real thing. And then Tim had to say, the problem is that I, as the employee, am more valuable if I don't document what I know, which is great because this is exactly where I was thinking when you were telling me this. How do you solve that incentive alignment problem? So I want to ask that question that Tim asked, but I want to weave in what you said earlier around that pain of rediscovery. So that pain of rediscovery, that's going to click with me here today, has a cost. And what Tim's asking is, how do we incentivize alignment so people document more effectively? And so how do you talk to an MSP who laughs off and says, "Oh yeah, it's more than 85%," when they've had many of years and opportunities to do it.
Yes.
They're not like they're not ignoring it. They know it's a pain. They just haven't solved it. So how do you help them? And how do you help them incentivize and align so they don't run into this pain of rediscovery again?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't an incentivization fix, that would have been done a long time ago.
Okay.
I don't think that there is a. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I've met organizations, MSPs, that have made it a part of their core processes from day one, or had some kind of evolution at some point to say, we're going to make this documentation process after every single ticket or after every single fix or whatever it is a part of what we do and who we are. It's our core structure, right? It is a core element of our operation here, right? I have met those MSPs. I'm thinking of one right now out of New Zealand that we serviced that was honestly incredible. But I've spoken to a lot of them, and the majority of them don't have that structure in place. At least the ones that I've spoken to, right? Because I think it's for the longest time, it's. I mean, not only are the people not incentivized to do that, but the organization historically has not been incentivized, because you are by definition a support organization, and your job is to help your clients fix their problems and do that as quickly and as fundamentally sound as possible, right? And so I do think like incentivization can work, but I think if it worked to the degree that you're talking about, it would have been done a long time ago. What I think is truly the answer, what I think is now possible with AI and automation and intelligence, is taking that job description, taking that requirement off the backs of your people and automating that, because the work is being done. Now, I'm not saying AI cannot read people's minds, and I wouldn't frankly want it to clarify that. For anybody out there that's designing that, let's just go ahead and stop that. But I do think that the work that is being done, if you could capture that work, you start to capture that probably 90% of what's being done. Now, the last 10% that's in people's heads, right? You have to make it easy for them. And at the point of capture, what I mean by that is most documentation should be taking place at the end of the ticket, when things are actually wrapped up, not at the end of the day or some point during the week when you're trying to recall all of these things. So I'm a big believer in radical deletion. Like Steve Jobs talked about this a ton with the iPhone. What is great about a phone, and remove everything else about it, right? And the user will be happy. I believe in this process. What are the first principles? What must fundamentally be accomplished to do the thing that we're talking about, and remove everything else, remove all the friction? I think if you're going to talk about incentivization, making things easy for people is the best incentivization you can have in capturing a business asset like knowledge and intelligence. So sorry, I went on a ramble there, but there's a couple of pieces I wanted to hit.
No, I like it. I like making it easy is the best incentive you can do. And I think that's a fair point, because the facts are, like, if the work's hard, they're not going to get it, or they're not going to do it. And you kept bouncing around as a software engineer in my head, the word that I kept bouncing around to is the definition of done. That's what I always like. That's what we talked about at our help desk about 15 years ago. What is the definition of done? A ticket is not done when it's done. A ticket is done when it's documented, complete, like documented, indexed, and then completed. And so redefining your definition of done is really critical, especially if you're going to build something effective. So I like this question that I had written down, and aligns to Tim's point here. How do you get those senior techs to share what they know? Like, how do you get that person in Australia that keeps hopping around and probably increasing their salary from hop to hop to hop, without the fear of being replaced?
Yeah. So I think one of the use cases, at least we discovered with our product, but I think it talks about like the pain there's a pain that each role feels with this problem of knowledge transfer, knowledge disappearance, or whatever you want to call it. What I like to call it is fragmented or scattered knowledge, right? Because the knowledge is there, frankly. Like MSPs have never had more knowledge, or have never known more, right? The problem is really it's not there. It's just, where is it, and how do you get that? That's really the question to be asked. But But yeah, so think about like different roles have different pains that are being caused by this problem. And for senior techs, the thing that always popped up is what I call the default search engine syndrome. Right? Maybe I think I need to think of a better name than that. But when I hear about senior techs and how they described it, basically they're the ones that are getting DM'd or pinged or tapped on the shoulder. Someone's walking across the office when an MSP hires a new technician because things are, typically not documented as well as they would like to be. They're the ones that are tasked with at least partially with training the new person, right? All of those things are taking them away from their job, taking the time off of it. And it can frankly just be an annoyance when you're getting, look, I know there's a lot of great guys out there that have no problem answering these questions, but a question that should take somebody 5 minutes to really accomplish or to do can take you 20 minutes of answering, explaining, and moving on, right? And so I think to your question or to Tim's question, how do you get those senior guys to do that? I think it's all about like anything in this world. If you can remove the pain or the annoyance of something, then people seem to act, right. And I think that's a natural human inclination to do that. If I can avoid the thing I don't like, I would do the thing, even if it's a little bit tedious, right. And that goes in accordance with making it easy for them. So, hey, stop being the default search engine for your organization, and we've made it easy for you to do that, right. And I gotta say this too, you gotta value your people. Like I run an AI company, but like we are by definition like a human first AI company. Like I believe that AI is there to augment and to revive your people, not replace them. Right, putting out there full transparency. I'm very vocal about that on LinkedIn. Your people are your most valuable resource in your MSP, right? And so they need to be treated like that and be reassured of that. I think is a big point. That is not a technological problem to be solved, but a cultural problem that I know a lot of our MSPs have, man. Like they value their people. I'm sure a lot of people listening do that as well, right? So I do think that needs to be a part of this conversation, knowing that they're not replaceable and they are valued. And just because they transfer their knowledge doesn't mean that they're automatically going to be replaceable tomorrow, because they'll continue to learn and hopefully they'll continue to add that intelligence back into the organization. So
I love it. Yeah, I love that point. Your people are your most valuable asset. And I agree with it. I think, it's tough, right, with AI, because obviously AI is automating work, but it should be amplifying employees to do more work. I haven't read this book. Brett, you are quite a prolific reader. You always have a good book to recommend on every show. So The Culture of Done. I have a feeling it's very. Do you know this book, Jamie? Have you read it?
No, I would just pump it up, Brett, man. I was like, let's go.
I'm always here to pump up, Brett. I love Brett. But that's awesome. It's a good book. I'm sure it has some, as I think he had put the comment in, we were talking about the definition of done. So if for people looking to amplify their definition of done, maybe that's a good book as a resource. Let's jump into the two letters we always talk about on every show that we've danced around them, but we haven't dug into them today. Let's talk about where AI can change this journey. And I recognize you're at Help Ghost and you're a vendor, but let's try to focus in on the AI itself and where it can help. And so what has AI changed in this journey for technicians, and what can it capture that a wiki never could?
Yeah, I think what is possible with AI was not possible 24 months ago. And it being able to not only capture the work that's being done. Now you got to figure out the mechanism of capture, and there's lots of ways to do that. But the fact that it can now capture, it can then take that and understand it, or at least, depending on the model, right? But it can understand, what those actions have led to. Now with the guidance of human beings and human in the loop, right? You can go and give it that nuance that it's never going to be able to get on its own. Like I've always said, I think AI is not always, but I try to make a point of this now really on LinkedIn is, AI is really good at a lot of things, right? But what it's never going to be able to do is have your human judgment, your human empathy, right? And have the nuance of decision making, right? Now you, because of what AI can accomplish, what it can reason, what it can see and document, can fill in those cracks for it. You can give it you can at least help train it on your judgment. Empathy is a different conversation. Give it your reasoning and your decision for making these decisions in real time, right? I think once again, having AI be a part of the process, not taking the process completely off the backs of human beings is really at the core of what I think AI should be doing here, because knowledge and intelligence is something that is always going to be, I think, dependent upon the human mind, right? At least it should be. And so to take that element out of it, I think would be a mistake, right? But it can help amplify and make that process easier for capture, and then especially redistribution. I think is a big part of that, is distributing the collective knowledge of your team to the rest of, to that singular person on your team, that maybe that new tech, for instance, that didn't have that experience that you had, that now can be transferred to them without you actually having to go and sit next to them to give them that knowledge, I think is critical. So
Yeah, let's dig in here. Talk to the service desk people here directly for me. You're a
yeah,
service
man.
desk technician. You obviously probably have some level of cursory. We're just going to assume you have some level of cursory understanding of
Yes.
AI at this point, and you're sitting at a Claude terminal or a Copilot terminal. Like, what are some of the things that you recommend that they could be doing today just to increase the way that they work and make their job and their life a little bit easier, other than treating it like a default search engine?
Yeah, for sure. I think as humans, not a lot of times, I can speak for myself personally, like pattern recognition can be hard. There's some people that
Yeah.
just have a, a total knack for pattern recognition and can really just see things from a mile away. And I think we all have that. We've all had those moments, but doing that consistently is very, very difficult, right? And so I think that there are certain patterns within organizations, or even within our workflows, even that we're blind to. And so I do think giving AI appropriate access to what you're doing on a daily basis and asking it to identify patterns that could be improvement for efficiency, or maybe there's something that, hey, like I have three different systems. They're saying three different things, but they're not talking. We're saying the same thing three different ways. They're not talking to each other, which probably means that there's an issue in this client environment that's not being recognized, right? Like those sorts of things. So I know for me, when I use Claude, because I use Claude daily, the pattern recognition, seeing what I don't see. Now, what I should, and a part of this is, don't take that for gospel. Like, I think you take that, you verify, and then you act, not just take and act. Verification is an extremely important part of working with AI. But at the end of the day, there are so many things that I've been able to identify through patterns and things happening within our own organization and within my own workflows and my own inefficiencies that I was kind of blind to. And so I think that's a great use case for new up and coming people in organizations that are, like you said, sitting on the service desk and trying to upskill themselves, which they should be doing, which I think AI is great for, is upskilling. And I think that is a prime use case that I see for AI within the service desk. Yep.
So if I were going to read that back into like a tactic, what I'm hearing
Sure.
is talk to your Claude system, ask it what patterns it's seeing, and identify some of these patterns so that you can maybe build an agent or build a skill to repeat the pattern or something there.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a technology I use called Little Bird, and it's an AI agent that sits on my desktop that watches all the work that I do. Right, it's the idea of a second, it's a second brain, right? The idea that you have something that is capturing, and so I took a lot of inspiration from that for our product as well. And I ask it, at least once a week, where can I improve this process? Where can I get more efficient at this process? I feel like a lot of times, I feel like I'm spending way too much time, um, uh, what's it called? The analysis by paralysis thing is a real struggle for me, and it has been my entire life, right? And so, or paralysis by analysis, excuse me.
Yeah.
Hey, where can I add elements of execution into my workflows once a decision can be made, right? Like those sorts of questions, like very like operationalizing the theoretical, I think is a massive opportunity for AI. And so using a system like Little Bird, like I do, and it watching all of my work and saying like there have got to be ways I can be doing things better, I think is an awesome use case for like a service desk technician that like look, they don't want to stay there forever. At least most of them I've met don't. They want, just like you in your career, You want to upskill, you want to move to level 2, level 3, get to the more strategic projects, right? Well, you got to upskill yourself. You've got to be more efficient. I do think AI can collapse that timeline of upskilling that wasn't traditionally possible before. So,
I love it. I love it. We're going to jump in towards the tail end here. The final segment, which is about building a knowledge resilient MSP. Maybe just define that for me. Let's just get started. Like, how would you define a knowledge resilient MSP?
Yeah. When a technician leaves, it becomes a scheduling issue, not a fire alarm.
Ooh, I like
Is
that.
a
Man,
is a knowledge resistant organization. Yeah.
my final segment's all about one sentence answers, and you just nailed that one. But we'll get there. So I like that definition. It's a scheduling problem and not a fire alarm. How do you dig in and measure before that technician leaves? How do you measure? What like metrics are you looking at? What OKRs or KPIs are you building out and defining to make sure that it is a scheduling issue and not a fire alarm?
I don't think, at least in the organizations that we're a part of, because a lot of the KPIs that we operate off of are ones that we created because our what we're doing and our processes are new, right? And so there weren't direct KPIs that was actually something very difficult that we had to figure out and learn along the way. The good news is figuring those out and then giving those to our MSPs has been a success for us, right? But as far as like what MSPs could do today, as far as KPIs or metrics, I go back to what you talked about. I really like that the definition of done. Like let's quantify what is actually done, because solving the issue and moving on does not mean you're done with that, right? And I think if there's any way to measure, whether it's through I know like the one MSP that I was speaking about in New Zealand that had a really, really good process, right? Like they had wasn't a massive checklist by means, and everybody hates checklists, right? But they had a standardized procedure that was going off of steps that must be followed to consider a ticket done. They didn't use that language, but that's essentially what you're saying as well. I think having those steps in place and then measuring what percentage of those things are actually considered done according to your standard processes is a really good place to start. Now that's a lift. Like none of the stuff I'm saying, it doesn't require a lift, right? Like there is work to be done there, but I mean, taking inspiration from them, I think that'd be a really great place to start, is defining it, putting a process in place to knowing that things are being accomplished, right? Without being big brother or micromanaging, of course, and then measuring what percentage of those tickets are actually considered done, I think is a really good way to operationalize that.
I love it. Jamie, just one more question, then we'll go into the wrap-up segment here. What is the first move for an MSP that knows it has a single point of failure in its business right now?
That's a very good question. The first move. I have the answer I want to say, but I won't say it. So that's a really good question, John. I think there's a lot of things that you could do, man. I think that's the hard part about that question. I don't know, like one of the things I struggle with is most decisions in life are not right. They just are, or they got to be measured on their right or wrongness down the road when you can see the full picture, right? And so when I think about that decision for an MSP, I think at the end of the day, if you recognize a person, if you have that person in organization, I do think it needs to start with a human conversation of, hey, how can we incentivize you, or what can we do to make your life easier to get what you know into the organization, because it's incredibly valuable and we value you as a human being. We know that your knowledge isn't going to cease just because you transfer. You will continue to learn. But as an organization, what can we do for you to help everybody, including us, win? I think most people that I've met in MSPs, I'd say 99% of them on the technician floor want to help their team members. Like they're incredibly helpful. They want to be an assistance, right? And so I think putting that in the light of, hey, this is not just going to help the organization, because some people say, well, I don't really care about the organization because the organization could let me go, but this could help my team members. This could help the people around me. And you've got to mean that, right? Because we see that, like right now, I see that every day. When we help with that knowledge transfer, it is down the line technicians that are seeing the benefits of that knowledge transfer, right? There's no doubt about that. I think putting in that light and sitting down with them matters a ton. So, yeah.
It's
So
great.
I think out loud a lot to the audience. I really apologize. I tend to think out loud a ton. So that's what you're getting here in this interview. Yeah.
I'm a verbal processor as well, Jamie. All good.
Verbal
I don't think there's
processor.
anything to
Yeah.
apologize for. We're gonna do the rapid fire wrap up segment here, Jamie, which
Okay.
is very simple, but might be difficult for a verbal processor. It would be difficult for me.
No, we're gonna do it.
You have as much time as you want to think about the answer, but you
Okay.
only are allowed one sentence to answer the question.
This is
So
difficult. All right.
just try to stick to the rules.
Let's do it. I'll do it.
One documentation habit every MSP must retire.
Hmm.
There's no rush.
I would say assuming somebody else is going to do it.
One thing owners get wrong about most of their knowledgeable techs.
Hmm. That's a good one. My gut is that they won't be there forever.
I agree. Most MSP documentation is out of date the day it is written. True or false?
True.
Does AI reduce tribal knowledge or just hide it better?
Depends.
That's a really tough question. Yeah, that was nuanced, very nuanced.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance there. Yeah.
What's harder to fix? Bad documentation or a bad documenter?
Easier to fix.
Harder to fix.
It's harder to fix. I go with bad documenter. Yeah.
If your top tech quit tomorrow, how many days until a client notices?
Like half.
Half a day? I don't know.
It depends. Yeah.
Copilot drafted that one. That wasn't a great question. In 2 years, is documentation a human job or a machine job?
Both.
Ooh, I like that answer.
I think it is. Yeah, sorry, you said one answer.
No, extrapolate. I'll let you extrapolate. I can break my.
I was gonna say it'll always be a human function, but how much of the gray work, how much of the lift is dependent upon the human will change. Yeah.
I like that. All right, final question. Finish this sentence. You know you have a hero problem when ...
You know you have a hero problem when. Man, that's a good question. They're out sick for a day, and it significantly impacts your operation.
I like it.
It's probably the best high level answer I could give. I think there's a lot of nuance there too.
I was thinking, yeah, but that's where I was heading to. It's like the backlog grows when they're out. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's, when they're gone, you feel it. I think is the best way to say it. So yeah.
I've noticed. No, you're all good. I've noticed I have not been doing a good job clicking over here. I missed a bunch of comments. It's called The Cult of Done, which is a great book, apparently. But I like Tim had me cracking up over here. I would live on that compound too. Like I would love to live on the compound of the Cult of Done. So Brett, if you start like a cult, I'm in. I love the Cult of Done. Then drinking the productivity Kool-Aid as we speak. So
there you go, Tim. Tim's the man. I love that guy.
Man. I love Tim too. I'm a little.
I've only met him once, but that guy is way cool.
Yeah, I'm opinionated though. But it's been a wonderful show, Jamie. Thank you so very much for being on it. Before I let you go, you're going to sign us off. Thanks for taking your time with us. So as a result, I always like to give you the opportunity to do a shameless plug for everybody that's listening. So take us away, Jamie. Tell us a little bit about Help Ghost and why and how and where they can reach out to you.
Yeah, you guys can go to helpghost.io to book a demo. with our team, mostly me right now. I handle all those demos, so he'll be meeting with me directly, which is awesome. We do a 30-day free accelerator, right? Getting you up and running in the process. And if you really want to stop your knowledge from disappearing in your organization, give Help Ghost a try. And I think you'll be pleasantly surprised with the results. So thanks everybody for listening and tuning in. John, thank you for having me so much, man. Really appreciate it. And I hope everyone has an awesome day and keep killing it.